All right. Thank you, Mrs. DeGraw. We want to welcome everyone to our annual organization meeting. We'll go ahead and call our meeting to order. Mr. Cottle, if you would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Cottle. The floor would be open for a motion to approve our meeting agenda.
Madam Chair, I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Mrs. DeGraw, did we have any public comment regarding our annual board organization?
No.
All right, so two of our current board members.
Yep, I'll bring that up for you. So, just by way of information for the board and those interested, we have the information from 2019 moving forward, and so we're in year 2025. Andrea and this would be in zone 1 will not have an election until 27. Mr. Cottle will not have an election until 27. Mr. Burnshaw will not have an election due till 27. And congratulations, zone 4 and 5. Dennis and Nedra here in 2025, you guys will be up for re-election in
That 4 years went down.
that 4 years goes really when you're having that much fun here.
That's right.
So that's let's see, let me move. All right, my Zoom stuff is right in the way of my.
What's in the way?
Just on my screen, I've got it taken care of here. Mrs. DeGraw, do I need to bring up the consolidated
No,
election
that's
law?
just for their
And
information.
then just the zone descriptions, which were put together at the 2020 census. This just talks about the exact locations of everyone's zone.
Okay, thank you for that. At this time, we will call for nominations for the chair to serve for the ensuing year.
Madam Chair, I nominate you as chair or to serve as chair.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any
Nomination,
discussion?
leave it all the way it is.
I
You
think-
get to do it
I
individually.
think we have to do it individually, because we have to vote individually on each one. So
Okay.
we'll go through the list. Is there any discussion on the nomination for chair? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Call for nominations for vice chair to serve for the ensuing year.
Madam Chair, I'd like to nominate Andrea Rigby for vice chair.
Is there a second?
Second that.
Did you accept that nomination? I do. Okay. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Call for nominations for, can I do clerk and treasurer together? Does that have to be separate?
Different names.
They're separate. Okay, all right, for clerk to serve for the ensuing year.
Madam Chair, I move that we nominate Carrie for clerk.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. DeGraw, do you accept that nomination? Yes, ma'am. Is there any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Finally, call for nominations for treasurer to serve for the ensuing year.
Madam Chair, I move that we nominate Julie Hall as treasurer.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
We're just gonna assume that she agrees with that unless I hear from her. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Okay, next we will review and sign the code of ethics for school board members. Everyone should have a copy of that. should look familiar. No one's changed at all. We can get it signed out.
Yeah, it was the same.
Biggest today. What?
Would you like to select those, Mrs.
If
DeGraw?
you can sign them, I'd like to collect them and then we can put it in your files.
I have a pen right here, Andrew. Yeah, that's the-
Also, in your packet, you should have some papers titled board norms. We just open this up for discussion if anyone has. 1500B, we just recently passed.
Unless there was anything else additional to that.
And then we have our other board norms document that we made last year. It's the stapled one, if there are anything they want to add to that.
And I believe, Mrs. DeGraw, I believe it's, if there are board norms that would like to be revisited, it doesn't have to wait until the annual meeting for that to happen. Is that correct?
Correct. Anytime throughout the year.
Yes,
Have an issue.
we could see, it could become an agenda item
Sounds
to
good.
be discussed.
Okay. Do we need to vote on? We did 1500, didn't we?
Right, we've already voted on it. This is just a review of what your norms are and if you wanna take anything at this point in time.
Okay, and lastly, in your packet should be school board meeting schedules. These are two possibilities here.
Yeah, and these could actually also be altered further as well.
As we discussed.
With discussion, and so. From the school district's side on these different drafts or options, for the board to consider. Draft one is identical, well, to what we've had on having meetings on Thursday. When I put these together just for the board to have something for them to consider, I did put noon as a start time. I actually feel like 12:30 probably would be a more appropriate time to allow for an executive session at 11:30 and an approximate start time for the regular meeting of 12:30. So that would be something that, as you guys discuss, I would probably lean more towards a 12:30 start time than a 12.
I agree.
With that, so it's just up to you guys if that's what you want to do. The draft number 2, the difference between 1 and 2 is 1 is the third Thursday and number 2 is the second Wednesday. This is, and again, with a start time at 12:30 after this discussion now. The reason for this proposal is more about the functionality of the work at the district office. The third Thursday at times will fall in line with the same week as payroll. Doesn't always, but more likely not, there is a conflict with that. There's not any real guarantee that another emergency would never crop up on any schedule. There's always a chance for that to happen. But we know that payroll is always the 25th, and the week before payroll is one of the busiest time for our entire office. We would have to make sure if it was moved to the second Wednesday, because it's one day up, our mindset would have to shift to make sure that we have a lot of that stuff done the weekend before to adjust, to allow the board to have the things that they need. So we recognize that that would be an adjustment that we would need to make if we moved to the second Wednesday. So those are 2 options, but you guys can discuss as well. I'll let you take the lead, Madam Chair, on what you want to do with this.
With these 2 meetings in the summer, the June and July, do you feel like that start time is appropriate or do we need to bump it?
We had 10 o'clock at that time, in consideration of board members that preferred to get, I don't want to say get the meeting done early, but allow them during their busy summer schedules. I would be okay with having that at the same time if it made it consistent for everybody, but if it's better to have the June and July at 10, that doesn't matter for Mrs. DeGraw or I at the district office.
I'm not opposed to moving it to the second Wednesday if that helps with payroll.
We're gonna find that.
Mrs. Perkins?
I have a book club that day, but
What time's your book club?
Every
it's
month.
2:00, it's too hard to do both.
Yeah, we should invite the book club to meet here.
Well,
And then we
it's
could
a
have-
Hamer book club. Why
well,
would they want
Hamer
to
can-
come here?
Hamer loves West Jefferson School District.
They do. I guess we have to change the book club, and we can do, I mean,
Is it something that, are
because,
they flexible or?
because there are people on the book club that watch the board meetings. We don't want to have it.
They're gonna wanna see this.
So they're gonna be interested on this vote right now.
They are, and they said that they,
What would they
you
say?
know, they would be willing to change the time
Okay, good.
to another day.
That's
No,
nice.
we
of them.
appreciate that.
That's nice of them. We would like to, like, I would, if I had, like, just as my thought, I would like to try this to see, and maybe it doesn't, maybe we go through this for a full year and the second Wednesday doesn't give us the added support that we need, but I do think it falls differently between the accounts payable portion of the business office and then the payroll portion. And it might allow us to also use Mrs. Hall differently in preparation for a board meeting as well. And so I'm hoping that will work out that's what the idea behind this proposal.
Is any other discussion then?
So we have, we just have to start thinking of 2 weeks in 1 month and 2 weeks in another being our full month to review.
Yeah,
It's kind of,
it's a different way to look
it's a
at it.
different way to look at it.
And I think once we get going
I don't
on
know,
it,
budgets be ready or,
that's a good question. Mrs. DeGraw.
because I hate to have budgets be a month behind.
So by putting it the second Wednesday, then that at least gives me a couple of days if the first is on a Friday. I could get the financials done on Saturdays, but you guys had them early enough.
Saturday, that's not a work day.
Sometimes it is for me.
Well, I don't think we should change to make more work.
I don't think it'll make.
It's not
work.
more work, it's just different times.
And to speak towards that, the budget report, you have your accounts payable.
Yeah.
And your budget report, both are really important financial documents for us and the board to review. The budget report, I don't think is as important to see immediately as accounts payable,
Accounts payable.
because accounts payable is everything going in
As
and
well
out.
as payroll. Accounts payable and payroll are our expenses of the month.
And so you'll
Right.
see those will be the ones that are happening right now. The budget report again is a 30,000-foot view of, are we on track from the beginning to the end? And when we set our budget in June, that's the budget report that you would see. So if that's a couple weeks, it would be, we call it a month behind, but it's essentially 2 weeks.
That I'm not concerned
Different.
about, I'm just wondering how
So
hard
would-
it is to be. up
Would the
to date.
accounts payable be hard to get it done?
Accounts payable, as soon as the next month comes, I can create that report and the system automatically creates it as well as the payroll.
So what you,
So those ones I could upload,
so what you're saying is accounts payable would be the same that we're seeing now.
correct, and it,
But the
And
budget, the
that's-
budget report would be the next, we'd be 1 month back
Right.
depending on,
on the month.
Yeah, that really
Yeah.
doesn't matter, I was just
Okay.
thinking,
yeah,
if it's pretty much always up to date, isn't it? So
Yes.
anytime you have to run it, it's what's been in there.
so I rerun the budget
Basically.
report after I've reconciled. And so that's just the difference each month in that budget report.
I don't see a problem if you don't.
Great, okay, Mr. Williams, if you'll stop sharing your screen for just a moment, I've texted you the link to a final draft that the board can review before.
So stop share,
And then go to your text,
my text message.
and then just click on that
I had
link,
to make sure I wasn't
sharing.
sharing it everywhere. and then back to share again.
Yes, please. Looking at these dates, I don't see any month where I wouldn't have that budget report done.
So this would be the second proposal for the second Wednesday of each month with 12:30, 10 o'clock in the summer. Is that what we were thinking?
Yes.
And then 12:30 all the way through. So that's what June and July would be held at 10. And I made sure that the August one, this would be during the first Wednesday of teachers being back, but it is after the fair. And after the fair and before school starts, which allows us to have our transportation plans and everything approved before buses go out.
Great.
Okay.
I think it's important that we be flexible. I mean, the board, your families come first, and if something comes up, we will be flexible and we'll adjust, but
And it gives
this
us
is great.
But after voting on this, we'd have to come back to a board action item. And we've done that, like today's start time being earlier was for that. So thank you.
Okay, well, before we open for a motion to approve, this draft two, sorry,
Draft.
It'll be final draft,
final draft, okay.
and I'll upload it to.
Where board meetings will be on the second Wednesday of each month.
Madam Chair, I so moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Okay. If we can just move right into our regular board meeting. We'll go ahead and call this meeting order. Well, welcome all of you again. Or so.
How many people left? Mass exodus.
Right? No, there was a lot to go through there, but
That was good.
gotta be done on an annual basis, so. The floor will be open for a motion to approve our regular meeting agenda.
Madam Chair, I so moved.
Is there a second? Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Mrs. DeGraw, do we have any public comment for this meeting?
No.
Thank you. All right, the floor will be open for a motion to approve our consent agenda.
Madam Chair, so moved.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Mr. Williams, did we have any purchase, spending, or surplus items?
Yes, Madam Chair, we did have one that came up with our transportation department. We were able to lock in the bulk fuel price. This is one that we have discussed every year that I've been superintendent, but just as a quick summary, our departments, we have those really nice storage tanks. We're able to buy most of the year's fuel all in one. We received 3 bids. Mud Lake Oil bid was the lowest, and we got those bids yesterday. And so what we would be ordering is the summer mix, which is number 2 diesel. We got locked in at 236. We would want 10,000 gallons of that, and that would be the estimated cost. The winter mix, we mix number 1 and 2 together, so we'd buy 4,500 gallons of each. You can see that the price of number 1 is a little bit higher. And when we get that 9,000 gallons there, it would give us 24,164, and we have enough room in our tanks to take all of it. So the total estimated cost that the board would need to approve for this is 47,764. Just as way of information, last year's bulk fuel combined purchases were approximately 53. I couldn't remember the exact amount, but it was like 53 and then a couple $100 after that. So this year is lower than last year. At least it's not as low as it was in 21, but it's, you know, it's coming back down and seeing that stability. The funding source for it comes from our transportation budget, under the supplies bus fuel. So if you see that in your budget report, that's where it will come. We did have 90,000 budgeted for that. We purposely always go there just in case there's an emergency and everything spikes. And so we're gonna be well under budget with the 47,000. So at this point,
So, comment I like when you put the funding source on there. Have you always done it?
no, I haven't. I started doing it last month.
Thought that's a great. idea.
And it just helps with the transparency
Yes.
of the finances. So when people see where it comes from, they can go take that and go right to the.
And
budget
I
report.
appreciate having last year's numbers on there as well. That's helpful. Okay, well, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the spending for the bulk fuel purchase.
Madam Chair, I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes, thank you. We have a couple of items for information and discussion. First one being our policy review.
This is our second month where we've had our annual list of policy review. I'm just gonna pull this one up and you can remember we have. These are all the ones that we just need to have available for public comment and also for the board to be able to indicate if they have anything else that they want to talk about. Mrs. DeGraw, is there anything further on this that we wanted to
Does any
mention?
board member have a specific policy they want to talk
I
about?
just wanted to make a comment.
Okay.
That Carrie assured me that as she looks at each of these, she will write whether they need a committee to fulfill what is said, or whether they need any other kind of parental help, or just whatever needs to be done
Mhm.
to make it. And she keeps track of that, so we can be assured that if it says have a committee, that there's a committee, or
Yeah.
do this or do that, then it's happening. So I like that.
So what's the plan moving forward after this discussion with this?
So if there are no changes to these policies between now and next month's board meeting, then I will move them to a second reading to put before the board for approval. There were some policies in the policy review that we had not adopted yet, so we'll move forward with that adoption if the board is in favor. And as well as our 8,000.
Yep, the 8,000 part right there. So
It's a lot of reading material.
it is a lot. When you get, you can't sleep.
Right? It'll be super.
We can get through them all.
Okay,
That's all I have.
next, we have a draft of the school calendar.
So my plan with the calendar is to have a month, 2 months of just time for people to give feedback. I did have a patron come in and share some feedback with me, which I really appreciate people taking the time to come and do that. This draft calendar, I know the board, you guys have a hard copy there in front of you. Very similar to this year's. With a starting date for the high school. And this is proposed and we can look at that, but 14th and 15th, starting with the secondary schools, or excuse me, not secondary, high school. So 7th and 8th grade wouldn't start. From the staff, especially our special education and different resources that are stretched all across the district, they really appreciated the staggered start between the schools. It allowed us to get set up at one school with the older kids, move into the next one. I would like to add preschool, which is not required in the state of Idaho with the timing. And our preschool program is for special education students primarily, and then we invite community members to come. So that's what our preschool is, not a sanctioned preschool to start anytime. We could start after harvest break with our preschool if we wanted to. But I would like to start preschool one more week after the elementary starts. Again, just to make sure we have all the processes and procedures in place. And that would start the preschool on the 25th. So that is really the biggest change that I have on here. I may want to look at when homecoming is. I'm not sure when that date is, and that might change something here in September. Last year, the 2 Fridays in September were the only 2 that we had, and we did adjust that, if we remember, when we got into September and made the day before harvest a non-school day. We traded that with a different day, but any other things that's jumping out? I might have made a mistake, on here, but the days are matching up the same. It would be a 2-week potato harvest. That starts on the 22nd and goes to the 3rd. Tyson, from your viewpoint, I know that when we've talked about potato harvest, sometimes the variety of potatoes determines on when you start, and also the difference between potatoes that are planted in Hamer to potatoes in Montague to potatoes in Osgood. There's just a little bit of a difference. It doesn't make sense to start on the 29th and go through the 10th. That's almost too late. Like,
No, I would. Most people are shooting for earlier than later if they can.
I know they started later in Hamer, they sat around for 3 days before they started.
And some of
Hard
it
to
depends on the maturity of the potato as well.
and also
How they cut
water
down on it.
situations like
Yeah.
last year.
I think you're just fine, right?
So what we've traditionally done is kind of shot for that last full week of September, and then the next week. And sometimes it's a full week in October, sometimes it's a full, it just depends on the calendar year.
Yeah, I think the earlier the better. They can go later if they have to.
So I will also be sharing this with my admin team, getting feedback from them. I just wanted to have this as a jumping off point of this is a draft and we can change things around. I know we pulled different, on the last calendar that we pulled. It talked about taking away these Fridays and going longer in the school, like going into the first week of June. And that wasn't one that had a lot of popularity. That's also, I've been asked about like the length of the school day. We have it as tight as I've been able to make the numbers work on a 4-day school week with when we start and finish. And so those are things that as people bring them up, like even like 5 minutes more in a school day would actually be where I'd want to go if I could. Just to give us a little bit more breathing room when it comes to the instructional hours, but as of right now, it's working. Unless some other proposal comes up, I think we leave it, the start and end times the same, for now. But again, more discussion could happen. Thanksgiving break, Christmas is gonna be similar. I know the 2-week break at Christmas feels really long. I know that's something that Nedry you've mentioned before.
I don't see what else you can do though, 22nd, you're not gonna
Yeah.
go to school.
One thing that's been helpful with that, and this is one thing where maybe I could see the advantage of going later. We do have families that vacation during that Christmas break. And some families even go to Mexico during that time. We've actually had less student absences because of that.
Mhm.
And so that was one thing that we noticed. The timing of the semesters is another thing where we look at the total days. The first semester, to try to balance the first semester and the second semester, does require us to go 4 days after in January. I know that can be an issue when it comes to classes that are doing their finals. I need to reach out to the high school and find out if there was really any students that were harmed academically that way. If somebody because I wouldn't want a student who is typically an A student all of a sudden not do so well on a final because of this and then fall back. There might be some wiggle room that we can do with some of our core classes that they teach all year long, but that doesn't always work because sometimes we have kids that take the core class from one teacher and then gets offered from a different one. So I want to look into that a little bit more, but where we're at is if I end the semester in December, by end of this semester on December 18th, that turns first semester into 65 days. and turn second semester into 79. And so it's just, maybe that's okay, maybe it's not, I'm not
Do you
sure.
know, if you were to end it on December 18th, do you have to count that break as part of the next semester? Because there might be.
No, so when I'm counting that, I'm only counting instructional
Actual
days.
days.
And with the instructional days, those are high school student days. And again, the secondary, the
So it only
elementary.
shifts it by 4 days either way.
Yeah. And maybe that's not a bad thing. I don't know. I would have to, I haven't had a chance to sit down and look at instructional hours. I do have a spreadsheet that has that calculation. But that's something I could definitely look at.
I think it would be helpful to look at it.
Are-
To see where it falls.
Do you kind of, what are your guys' personal thoughts or thoughts you've heard from patrons? Like,
It just seems like it's a good ending spot to end it on the 18th. Because you're coming to the close of the year, you're coming to the close of the semester at the same time. And then coming back at the first of the year, it's a good starting point.
yeah,
Instead of trying to finish up something that you were talking about 2 weeks ago, that went clear back to August.
so the quarter classes, I just had this thought as you were talking. The quarter classes might be an issue then as well, because then your quarter classes would be down to 30. Which would be really tight on the
The amount they need.
on the instructional time for the quarter classes. Always, yeah. I'm still gonna go run those numbers and find out exactly what that would do to the quarter classes. Cause that's the first thing that jumps out in my mind.
Yeah.
Spring break. One of the reasons why, because I've had some people ask, why do you like to try to do it this week? Why can't we come into April? The 19th does end the third quarter nicely. And so
Is that about halfway?
quarter three, let me look here. So quarter three is longer actually with 40 days. We actually could probably bump it. It would actually be better for us if we did choose to move a spring break, is to actually move it up to the 16th through the 20th, which I don't think we like that either.
Weather's pretty much
Cold.
the same either way.
It's nasty either way, I guess. But I don't know, that's an interesting thought if we moved it up. Up one,
I know it's not popular, but if we were gonna base it on weather, I would rather start later in August when the buildings aren't so hot
I know,
and go into June when summer's not quite here yet.
but that's because it's a different conversation. When it's in the fall, we're talking about. We have to start earlier for harvest,
Right.
the weather doesn't matter in the spring.
This doesn't give us much choice.
No. It tightens it down. It tightens it down, and I felt like. This last year, when we had our graduation. After Memorial Day, it allows us to get all the instructional hours that we need. But it also allows us to. Finish up with the things that the activities that are going on at the school. I know this year, we're trying something different because just talking about the end of the year. Last 2 years, we've had our high school drama play that final week. We are actually having drama during second and third quarter, which means that the play will be this week during March. And on the current calendar, but you get the idea of what I'm saying. And the reason behind that is we were competing with softball, baseball, track, graduation, all the different things. It was kind of a nice end of year fun thing for especially those seniors to be able to do that. But we felt that where we started in second, we still had a full semester time to prepare for the play. But this is right after basketball, state basketball, and right before track and baseball get going. And so we'll see how that goes. And maybe if we do have a drama thing in the future, it would be in May for the junior high. That's kind of what we're thinking. So other thoughts while we're on discussion? Things I can look at, I'll look at the ending of that first semester with the quarter hours.
We discussed President's Day. Maybe
So-
we did that and
So that's another one. Let me look at, that could be something we could look at. I think that might be a question we could ask. President's Day, Civil Rights Day, do we want to turn that into, we basically flip flop that week?
Like we do with Labor Day.
Like we do with Labor Day, if we did, I'd need to be, people need to be aware that other activities that are scheduled through clubs and stuff on Fridays might need to be aware of that as well. I don't know.
What's the advantage of doing that?
So I don't know the advantage to having maybe Civil Rights Day and President's Day. Basically take those Fridays and push them to the Monday. I think the only advantage would be
You still have to do the day.
you still have to do the day somewhere, but it might give them a 4-day weekend because they can take the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then the Monday.
It would improve attendance then.
But does it improve? I don't know. I haven't had a chance to look at, I would have to look and see, are people taking those days off?
Mhm.
I would think you'd be in jeopardy on a Friday of losing.
More.
Mhm.
That I've learned, that's where my mind has gone,
Mhm.
but it could be worth the,
I don't know. Looking to see how many are missing that Monday now.
is
They
that,
go somewhere.
maybe we just turn it into a 3-day week.
Right.
Who even knows it's a holiday? I mean, when that day comes along, do you even
Bank.
care?
The bank.
Take them
Post
off.
office.
Yeah, does anybody care?
When would that be? That would make the. Look at that, right? I'll have these correct. I might have the wrong,
We just might be off on the numbers.
oh, I was on the wrong one on this one.
Oh, okay.
I had it correct. I just, on my paper calendar, President's Day would be the 16th, so that means that you would take the 20th. And turn it into, there's pros and cons with it because. The final 3 weeks, or the last 2 weeks of February and the first week of March. Are all of your winter sports state tournaments. And I guess that just depends on whether your teams make it or not. And that's where people would say, well, that was a smart calendar to. Have those days off to allow people to go support them, because you go girls' basketball, state wrestling, and then boys' basketball.
Mhm.
And I'm hoping we have those types of problems coming. Keep our fingers crossed.
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
Look at,
Lots to consider.
yeah. Or go one more week into June and take those days off.
We know nobody likes that,
No,
so.
because that would bump, you'd want to have your graduation that last week. Because you technically could, if you took those 4 days right there, that would allow you to take that Friday off, and have both of those. I don't know.
Should we create that as a calendar option for people to look?
I think so.
Now we're going into June and we're still not starting any later in the
No,
list.
no, you're going to June and start early. It is what, but it's
I don't know.
just
It's
the,
not doable.
you think this would be the better one?
We have that
I think
discussion
ending in
last year,
May
though,
is
that
the
people
better
would
way to do it.
prefer to do the Fridays instead of.
Did we talk about that with
We did.
presidents and? It
Not
was,
with presidents,
Presidents.
but
Not
we
with
did talk
President's Day,
about
but
it
we
with
did
the
talk about-
calendar.
Give them
September,
those Fridays in September.
yeah,
and it seemed like more people were interested in doing the Fridays than going later into June.
And they liked that the Fridays were at the beginning of the year when people were fresh.
Yeah,
okay.
especially where you have a 2-week break.
Well, we'll see. And those that listen to the school board meeting, if you don't have to go to you can come right to me, guys. I'm the people's superintendent here. You can talk to your school board members, but if you have a question or a comment, you can come to me and ask me, and we can consider it. Maybe we can even put some stuff out there for some polls.
Yeah.
Initially to look at, but I would like to have this up for consideration for a couple of months. And
While we wait for the legislators.
I want to
finish.
see what the legislation, just in case some thing doesn't come up that says this is a requirement for schools to get this money and a calendar has to look a certain way. I don't think we're gonna have that. But I don't know.
That is a possibility, isn't it?
They've surprised us before.
You never know. Yeah, you never know. So I don't want to jump too quickly to approving, but by March, if we know by March, that's plenty of time for us to have this. I don't anticipate harvest moving, so if there are any farmers out there wanting to make their plans on when to plant their potatoes and to have that out last week of September, first week of October, last full week of September and do that. So good discussion. Thank you, guys.
Okay, next we have the superintendent report.
Right, I'm gonna make it easy on everybody. I'm just gonna pull up our events calendar for those that need to remember. You can go to wjsd.org. That pulls up let me just go show you right. wjsd.org. When you go to that, the events calendar right here will pull up this one here. It's just where you go to. And that just has all of our events. Today is our school board meeting. I'm glad everybody that was able to see the events calendar made it to the board meeting. It just shows everything that's going on. Busy time. I do want to have a student council come this next month where we've voted on having the second Wednesday, be able to have a presentation on all the different things. But even like on Monday, our kids in orchestra had a chance to go up to Teton and participate with all these other kids and be in a really big orchestra. It was a really cool day. We'll have some presentations on that. But this is where people in the community, if you want to be coming to games, involved, activities, we put our band stuff on here. Anything where kids are performing, come on, like make sure you check this out. Back to the superintendent report. One thing I did want the board to know as I look at my different departments, I did want to just put a shout out to our maintenance department with just gratitude and all the different things. If you've been to our buildings, we have our water fountains with the bottle fillers that are all in the Panther Den in this building. They put two more in the high school and one in the junior high. That's been awesome. That's been a great thing. The kids are using the bottle fillers. It's more hygienic just to help things work well. We have been looking at trimming some trees around the properties. So both on the Hamer campus and here in Terraton. So we've reached out and have a bid that's very reasonable for us. So we will be trimming the big trees that are over the parking lots in Hamer. Those great big ones will get trimmed down. And then we'll trim the tree that's right in front of the library and the two that are over by the bus. Just make them nice and even trim them. Here at the district office, we would like to remove the trees that are in front of my office and replace them with some trees that don't have those little berries and things that come out. And we were gonna look to make sure that we can get those all in front of the entire property here. Just something that's not we had trouble with the big pine trees out in front. We just want something that's more ornamental out here in the front. The tree here by the Terraton Library is going to be removed, the willow tree. We don't want it to get up over the school, and also just creates an issue with snow removal and pushing the snow. The tree back by the playground is going to get pruned. Just so we want to keep that out there. That's a nice one for the kids to sit under on the few months where it's really hot. It's one of our last trees back there. I know trees are great until they get too big and then they can cause some really big problems for you on the property. So that was one thing that we're gonna do.
That will probably happen soon.
So yeah,
They do give us a 10% discount if we do it in the winter, and it's better for the trees. But then the new trees won't be planted until spring.
that we want to get the landscape. There's a lot of vole damage and stuff that we've got to figure out how to address. But other than that, our other departments are doing great. Everybody had a good break. I think we just keep moving. Does anybody have any questions about superintendent report or facilities or anything or? Okay. Hey, Madam Chair, that's all I have today. Thank you.
Do we need to have a special or work meeting?
No,
And our next meeting will be on Wednesday. What's that?
The 12th. Wednesday, the 12th.
11:30 for executive session.
Yes.
12:30 for regular meeting. Alright. Before we, for a motion to adjourn,
Madam Chair, I so move.
is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor?
Okay.
Any opposed? That motion passed.